Hello, and welcome to another installment of the Intune.training podcast, the place to learn how to use Microsoft Intune, the Steve and Adam show. Hey, I'm Adam Gross, and I've got Steve with me. Hey, Steve.
Hi, I'm Steve. How's everybody going today?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. I'm about to go to bed over here, though. Can we get this rolling? Man.
Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there.
All right. So Steve, we've been going through how to set up our Intune tenant, and we've covered setting up Intune and setting up the store for business, deploying different policies from Intune. And so today we're going to talk through setting up our administrative templates using ADMX backed templates to push out some policies. And all of the topic today will center around securing our company data, right?
Yeah, so today what we'll talk about is setting up OneDrive, known folder redirection, enterprise state roaming, and all of those really awesome features that give us the ability to secure our corporate data in a way that makes sure that our end users don't have to think about what they're doing with their data. So let's start off going through and setting up those policies now, Adam. So like we did on the last couple of videos, I'm going to work through with Adam the process of setting up these tenants.
Okay.
So I'm going to pass it across to Adam, who's going to be sharing his screen. And from here, we're going to go to device configuration. So the same as what we did for the BitLocker, we're going to be creating a profile here. So we create the profile. And from here, we select a nice name. Typically, you want to have something descriptive. So in our scenario, we're going to use Win10 OneDrive known folder redirection, or KFM, because it's known folder move. And the reason for this is it gives us the ability to move those files. And for the profile or platform, obviously, as you can see, Adam selected the Win10 or later, and the profile type here is really important. As it's an admin template or administrative template. When we select that, you'll see, unlike all of the other options when we select in there, we don't have the ability to set the settings straight away. We need to create the profile first by hitting create, and it will now create a settings page or blade for us now here. So,
and for the ease of navigation here, and so we get our screen real estate going, I'm going to collapse some of these guys out of the way. We've got a better idea of what's going on. Now this looks this is not, it resembles group policy except in a more of a flat file style here. So yeah. There's 29 pages, and that looks like about 100 on the page here. So wow, that's I'm not very good with math, but that sure feels like a lot of policies.
It's a lot of policies. It's well over 2,000 policies currently in ADMX-backed policies. So the ADMX policies are using the WMI OMA channel to be able to send those policies out to the computers. So right now what Adam's going to type into the search, because it's impossible to find everything by just scrolling through, you'll take ages.
Well, but actually, sorry, Steve. So before we do that, I wanted to point out that these paths look very familiar. So this should be what we're used to seeing in group policy, right?
That's correct. So if you've previously looked in group policy for, say, the app B streaming, you'll see that it's under System App B streaming, and that will give you the ability to use your existing documentation and see if it exists in Intune ADMX.
So policies. We could go and do a resultant set of policies or something on a device, and or go export our GPOs, yep. and we should be able to easily come do a one-to-one comparison here and find similar policies, or hopefully the same policies.
That's correct.
Okay.
And typically it is going to be the same policies and the same ADMX files that are sitting behind it all. These are just a different way of presenting that data. So okay. If you, on the right hand side, there's the all products drop down. You can actually select whether it's a Windows policy or an Office policy that we're looking for. So right now we're just going to leave that at all products. But what I'll do is I'll get you to search for OneDrive. Yes, we changed our script a little bit.
I can keep up.
Yes. So in here, what we're going to set up is a few configuration settings that give us the ability to make sure that it's set up as we want it to be. So the first one is probably most organizations are going to sit there and go, we want this to be the case. That is allow sync from OneDrive, allow syncing OneDrive from specific organizations. This is where you limit it to your organization. So Adam can't go and add his private OneDrive in there, or I can't go and add my private OneDrive in there. So how do we find out our tenant ID? Well, this is where we go to, the easiest way is portal.azure. And from here, we then select Azure Active Directory on the left-hand side.
I love how you said easiest, and we're several steps in.
Well,
we're getting there.
I could give you the PowerShell scripts if you want. Oh, so once it loads up the page, you'll have the ability to select properties on the blade. And Adam's internet's a little bit slow today.
Every day. Properties.
Yep, so we're selecting properties here, and then we're grabbing the directory ID. That directory ID is the same as your tenant ID, and we hit OK on that. What we're next going to scroll down is we're going to see that third from the bottom on the list right now is the limit the sync client upload rate to a percentage of throughput. This is really important when you're setting up and provisioning new environments. If you don't have this set, you will take down networks. I've done it. The customers don't really appreciate it. So this is something that you should probably look at making sure you have this set up. I'd probably say limit it to say 30% of your internet available, as it gives the ability to sit there and have the bandwidth space there. And at the end of the day, OneDrive is just going to sync in the background.
And this is a really great one. Even if you're not in Intune today and you're looking at doing OneDrive no folder move, definitely go in, set this setting. I was telling Steve previously, I took down my home internet for days because OneDrive was just stuck syncing, and my I got throttled or capped by my ISP. So that was fun. I was yelling at them for a while until OneDrive finally finished. So definitely set that guy.
And OneDrive is very, very aggressive on how it gets its files up there. It knows that it wants to get it up there very rapidly. So the next one we're going to select is prevent the sync client from generating. What are we looking for? Prevent users from syncing libraries and folders shared from other organizations. So this one here, it sounds like a simple one. But what we're saying is we don't want B2B sync happening. So we don't want myself to be able to share data to Adam's company and vice versa. So we're going to enable that. And we're also going to select the one below it, Adam, which is the prevent users from syncing personal OneDrive. This is all about that data loss prevention process. So we click OK on that one. And we're going to scroll down a little bit until we see these, where is it? We need to silently move Windows known folders to OneDrive.
And this is the key reason why we're doing this right here.
That's correct.
For sure. And for the purpose of, at least for the purpose of our demo, but you may even consider leaving this turned on, this lets users know that their folders are going to be redirected or have been redirected.
And that helps with the whole educational piece around what's going on in that technology space.
Yeah, I think many times we want to shield our users and prevent dialogues or things from, we want to do things behind the scenes and not tell our users what we're doing. But I think in this case, because this is the lifeblood of your user, day to day, if their files go missing or if things are working strangely, we've literally moved their cheese, and we want to make sure that they know where their stuff is and can access it. So having some visibility in there for them is not a bad thing.
Yeah, that's correct. And then the next one we're going to set up is the silently sign in users. This is actually a pretty important one. This automatically signs it in and sets it all up and forces it to update it to the latest, is my understanding. So we're going to enable that.
Now, I think that, Steve, I think that, so if you consider the idea that if your users aren't signing into OneDrive, then their files are not being synced. So you end up with a local repository of all those users' files. And in that instance, you are at a risk of losing data if that device gets lost, stolen, broken, whatever. So by enforcing this makes sure that that folder redirection is going to occur against the user's best wishes there, at least, to the best of our ability.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. Like, at the end of the day, the reason why we're turning on that known folder redirection and making all of that technology there and pervasive and not an option for the customer or for the end user is because it's around the data loss prevention scenario. We're sitting here and saying, look, we actually don't want you to save files locally, but we understand you know that documents is where you save documents, desktop is where you can save some temporary data, and etc. So we want to make it so the user doesn't have to think about moving those files around and backing it up, and they don't need to worry about profile moves when we give them a new computer. And this underlines that whole methodology and mentality of disposable devices. It's the same thinking as, look, on your mobile phone, do you let Apple or Google, or do you opt into syncing your photos? No, by default, iCloud is backing up your photos and Google Photos are backing up those photos. This is the same process, but we are now going to be the admin saying it has to happen.
Yep. And I think this goes along. I mean, if you've been in the desktop management space for any period of time, prior to this, you would have folder redirection just through Active Directory, and if you didn't have folder redirection enabled and didn't have some sort of offsite storage for your documents, I remember when we were moving from XP to Windows 7 or from 2000 XP. I guess it was 2000 XP, we had to scan our whole environment to find out where all the documents were, how much data was sitting locally on a device. Then we had to make sure that we migrated that data. And then when you do a device upgrade or replacement, you're constantly having to deal with this. There was just so much effort around, did the user get all their stuff back? Did USMT work? Did they get their settings and their files and their things? And all of these things that are, especially OneDrive and the other stuff we're going to talk about later, are really helping reduce the amount of IT administrative overhead, reduce the amount of company data loss, reduce the amount of user frustration with, oh, my settings aren't here, my pictures, my background. So all of these things really go towards shrinking the IT footprint that's required for management and enhancing the end user experience, I believe.
Yeah, and enabling those end users. And if anything, that's what Intune and the M365 stack's all about, is about enabling those users to help themselves. That whole onboarding process is about making sure that they know how to help themselves out.
Absolutely. I think that's a really good point.
Yep. So the last thing that we're going to set up on this blade, Adam, is right down the bottom. And that's the turn on the use OneDrive files on demand option. So what this gives us is the ability to make it so it only downloads the files that are really needed. So we click OK, and you'll note there's no save button at the top of the blade. And what that means is every setting that we've made, as soon as we click OK, it's saved it.
Now, since we haven't deployed this, we haven't assigned this out to any devices, they're not, actively getting these as we change them at this point.
That's correct. So now the next step is, Adam, if you can expand out your menu on the left-hand side, and we hit the assignment button. So now we're going to assign to our group that we previously have. I think we called it Intune Apps or Intune Baseline, Intune something. Once it loads up.
My internet really does not like us.
No.
It's because it's having to send all the bits all the way back to Australia. I know it.
Of course, it's definitely the Australian thing.
It is. I mean, it is the weekend over there already. So
That's right.
You know.
So yep, we're just going to select the Intune Intune baseline, and we're going to hit save. So we've now applied that policy to our devices and our users. So Adam has his VM still running. While that's going through, what we're going to set up is the additional components that I'd be recommending to turn on in your environment. So with OneDrive known folder redirection, it's redirecting the desktop documents and pictures. But what about the Internet Explorer Edge favorites? What about the policy settings for Windows 10 and everything around what it looks like? This is what we use, or what we use here is called enterprise state roaming. So as Adam's gone into the Azure Active Directory portal, we're now going to select the devices tab. And in here, there's two options that Adam just collapsed.
Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself here. And
we hit select device settings. So we're going to start here. Even though I said we mentioned enterprise state roaming and it's its own menu, this only popped out a couple of months ago. So there's two scenarios we're going to talk through here. Is the ability to add local admins on Azure Active Directory joined devices. So this is the same as going into group policy, where you could previously sit there and say this group of users have local admins to all of these computers. This is exactly the same process and exactly the same mentality. We select, if we hit the select button there, Adam, so selected, no member selected, and add members. So there's two things you'll note here when it pops up. Once the data finally comes through for searching, is that Adam can't select himself, which is a security thing, and that there are no security groups there. So this is a named user access only position, which I think is fantastic because it means people can't just be added into a group without thinking about
it. Now, before we move off of that one, Stephen, so I noticed that it says global administrators and device owners are granted local admin by default. But yes, I believe whenever we set up our autopilot profile that we selected local admin or that we removed local administrators. So when a user, the owner of that device, autopilots that device and they're provisioned to it, they're not a local administrator at that point because of the policy that we applied with autopilot. But if we hadn't done something specific there, they would be local administrator by default.
That's correct. And this is around, so if you get a box straight and go straight from Best Buy or JB Hi-Fi in Australia, and you go through that out-of-box experience, it's going to give you full admin access to that device unless it's been registered in autopilot and have that policy set to make it so the users are only standard. The other one that you'll see here is the require multi-factor auth to join devices. It might sound like it's a bit of an imposition for your staff, but this is actually a really important security blanket. This allows, if you don't have to have a multi-authentication prompt or multi-factor authentication prompt when setting up a device, what stops a hacker once they've got your user account going and creating a VM and spinning it up, signing in with Adam on Intune.training, and that hacker now has access to all of your corporate applications because it's come down via Intune, it's come down and enrolled everything, and it's trusted on your network. It then has a VPN configuration that's always on VPN. And this is where security is about when setting up the device, not just when using the device. So the MFA you see here is actually slightly different than the Azure Active Directory MFA. You can use them together or you can use them independently because you don't need to have a full license for that. You'll also see down the bottom, one part that a lot of admins will get caught out with, maximum number of devices per user. We all sit there and do tests, builds, and test this and test that. And from time to time, you end up just running out of devices that you can add. So this is where it's recommended that you just change that to as a higher number than 5.
It really doesn't like me.
No.
I think it got the change in the middle of the save previous one or something. All right.
So now we're going to select enterprise state roaming. So you'll see down the bottom there's the link that will go to the same place. The reason why that's there is because Microsoft moved this into its own blade recently. And as Adam's gone through, he's selected all users to sync app data and settings between all the computers, which is fantastic. And you just hit save.
And I think that's I think that's great, because then you're not dealing with people calling and figuring, having to come here and figure out, oh, did we turn it on for them? Did we not?
Yep.
And in my experience, I believe that if you've got an Azure AD joined workstation and you've got this turned off, then when you go to the settings gear to sync my settings, it'll tell you this has been disabled by your administrator and that sort of thing. So this helps. When you enable this, that goes away.
That's correct. Cool. So we now have all our data protection solutions turned on. Let's go across to our existing Autopilot join device on your VM that you have there, Adam, and we'll see if those settings are in effect.
So before we move on there, let me ask this silly question. So I noticed that this is a setting that seems to be rather global,
yes.
This device settings, and so I didn't get to deploy this to a particular thing. I know that, so this, I can select members for these guys, but for this, I'm turning on multi-factor auth, which apparently did not save at all. Let me fix that. Not sure what happened there. So, I think that's interesting that this is, this isn't the same as applying an Intune policy. We're setting an enterprise-wide setting on all of our devices that are part of Azure Active Directory, not just devices that are enrolled in Intune. Is that correct?
That's correct. So this is an Azure Active Directory policy, not a Intune policy. So this is across all devices for the MFA component, because that's, let's face it, any account that's doing that being used to create an account is very important that it gets the correct policies. So it can frustrate some people, but that's what some security processes are for. So Adam's just going to sign into his VM and do a sync of the company portal.
I'm going to go the long way.
Accounts.
Access work in school. So we've shown in a couple of our videos so far that you can do this, and I'm not as familiar with the company portal, but I know about this one, that this one is nice because I can see that the sync is in progress and I can watch it, and then when it's done, it will be done. And I believe in the company portal, you don't have the same visibility, but they're essentially doing the same thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's doing the same thing under the hood, but the company portal is more geared towards your end user going in and doing it quickly while they're on the phone to you, whereas accounts and settings is geared towards the admin remote on the computer and trying to troubleshoot and triage it.
Gotcha.
So this will send through the policies, and it'll be downloading and setting up that OneDrive configuration for us, hopefully.
All right. Now, I know that we didn't install OneDrive on this machine, and so I'm assuming that it just will magically just, oh, look, hey, so we have OneDrive.
Yep. So OneDrive's on all Windows 10 computers now, and has been for a couple of years now. But we also, as we deployed Office 365 out to this computer, as you can see, Microsoft Teams is on there. And that contains the latest version of the OneDrive sync agent, and it'll make sure that it's fully up to date. So if we go and scroll down, and that should be nearly applied. So let's do another sync, Adam, just to make sure. So the reason why I'm saying let's do two syncs is because sometimes, like group policy, it doesn't always apply and you don't see that it's applied correctly or not. And how we see it in Intune is we see a causality or change in the UI or a change in settings. So once this is applied, and sync this time through. We'll just have a quick look to see if OneDrive's auto-configured, Adam.
Okay. And so, for the folks at home, because I know the answer to this question. So what's the difference between OneDrive and OneDrive for Business?
So OneDrive for Business is the Office 365 platform. It has an SLA associated around the data management. You get a terabyte of it with your Office 365 E3 or E5 licensing, whereas OneDrive Personal, it doesn't have those SLAs around data recovery. It's the retail version, and it is a useful product, but it sits on a different platform and allows you to do a few different things. So
I'm gonna sign out.
Yeah, if you could, Adam, that'd be fantastic. And this will eventually sign in the OneDrive configuration. And look, it's going blue.
Turned blue.
And if we go to Windows Explorer there, Adam, for me. And it should eventually pop it up in there. So what we'll get you to do, Adam, while we're waiting for this.
Look at that.
Oh, there we go.
Hey.
How cool is that? So it's all set up, and you'll see now documents, desktops, and pictures have all got the wheel and the cloud next to them now. So they're available on demand. There's the prompt for the end user saying, look, we've set it up and it's all syncing for you. We don't have any files. Oh yeah, we do. We've got 2 links. That's going to infuriate a lot of end users, being the Teams and Edge icons being synced onto every computer that they work on.
Yes. So while we're here, I would like to point this out as well. So we talked about doing the files on demand, and so let's talk a minute about the status icons here. So what we'll get is I'm just going to make a new text document. So the moment that you make a text document, you'll get the status icon where it went very quickly there, but the little arrows going by to let you know that it's syncing. And so anytime you make if you edit the file and you save it, the moment you save it, it'll change the status. The other thing is, so this icon is letting me know that this file is not only synced, but it's residing locally. If we had documents that were only in the cloud, it would show a cloud icon, and that's the files on demand.
So
component.
Adam, if you select the free up space in the menu there, it'll actually take it off the local computer and say it's only available in the cloud.
Oh, that's a cool trick. I like that.
So if you've got a large file that you've synced up there and then gone, look, I don't need it on the local computer anymore, I'm just going to leave it up in the cloud. What will then happen in the background is, so when Adam double clicks on test and then closes back out, you'll see the green tick comes there. So this is where it downloads it on demand. And this is really powerful in the sense that it gives us the ability to control how much data is used locally and everything associated to that.
And one of the things that I think is really neat about this is that, so now I've got a document that's in the cloud, and I want to take it and, let's say, just stick it in another directory. And so I'll just go stick it in my pictures well, that's on the cloud as well. So music is not synced up. So if I drop it in there, what it just did, you see that it changed to the tick again. So we've automatically pulled that file from the cloud that quickly. Now I know it's an empty text document, but still, like Stephen mentioned before, the whole throttling component here. So if you had a whole directory that was in the cloud and you wanted to pull that down locally, you don't have to do anything special to make that happen. It will just automatically pull those settings for you and begin to sync them down. So I've experienced it. No matter where you're at, it knows to just wait, to pause for a minute. Like if I'm attaching it to an email or something, it will pause for a moment and it will grab those documents for you. And I think that's just incredible, and it's super fast. So
it's a credit to Microsoft that they've got this in, so we're running so fast now.
And then we've also, then one last thing here. So there's a always keep on device option here. I said one last, there's a couple of options. So always keep on this device. This will actually pin the file, so it will stay here until you tell it not to. So this is great if you've got a large document, or let's say you're going to be traveling or something and not have internet access, and you want to make sure that those documents are with you locally. This would be an option. And so this is why user training is really important. You can walk your users through how to do this.
And you'll see the status has gone to a full green instead of a green with a circle. When Adam's selected it, always keep on this device.
And so if we go ahead and we click on the View Online option here, you'll notice that it takes us to our SharePoint site. And so then we'll be able to interact with that document directly here in SharePoint. So here we could do all of the same sorts of things inside of SharePoint that we would do with the file locally. So we can share it, we can get a sharing link, we can download it, we can move it, manage it, and then whatever things we do here, we will sync back locally whenever we get back on our device where it resides. So we could copy a link here, we can edit, there's options here on who can edit, link expiration, password, all these sorts of things. So it's a full document security platform that allows you to securely share things without worrying about who's going to have access to them. So I think that's very, very powerful. So then I mentioned the sharing. So directly from your browser, I think this is, from Explorer, you can get your share links. You don't have to go to the web to go get a link to it or something. And so if you can teach your users to use this instead of, hey, copy this into an email, just give them a share link. And then that way, when you send this link out, if you choose to to pull that back, you can just remove that content from that network share or set permissions on it and prevent people from using it. And then even natively within Outlook, if you're running Outlook on your device, when you go to attach that document in Outlook, it will just natively integrate with SharePoint or with OneDrive and allow you to put a shared link instead of attaching the document itself to the email. So this is just kind of scratching the surface. I know we weren't going to go too in depth on this, but I think this is very, very important to investigate all of the options around protecting your company data. And I think OneDrive plays a huge part in helping you secure your data.
Oh, 100%. I completely agree with Adam on this. OneDrive is probably one of the best and most important things that we set up for every one of our customers now. It puts that peace of mind in there to make sure that everybody's data is backed up. It allows for a data transition or platform transition conversation. It becomes really easy where we just turn around and go, cool, let's turn off your old folder redirection, wait a couple of days, and then we're going to turn on OneDrive known folder redirection or known folder move. And it goes and moves those files for us. It sorts everything out and away we go. So you'll note that I said we turn off folder redirection to turn on known folder move because they don't play well together or they don't work together.
Yes. And one component that goes along with that so on my personal work machine, I'll do this. So I'll go to downloads and because downloads is not, sorry, is downloads included? It's documents, documents to desktop, and pictures. So for me personally, I like my downloads to follow me, and so there is a policy to prevent users from doing this, I believe. So yes. We can just go here and we can.
It's the location.
Where is it? Oh, sorry. Yes,
okay.
We can do move, and we can just move it to Intune.training, OneDrive, and. Yep. I think
you need to create a folder underneath it.
Do downloads on it. I think it should do that.
Yes. We don't recommend doing this because as soon as you start putting ISOs and things like that in your downloads, OneDrive can start balking.
Yeah, I agree. So yes. So, but knowing that the option exists, you should know that it's something to consider locking down just as much as it's something to consider using if you feel like it's, so you could, let's say that you had a special, other document locations that your users are used to using or something, you could always add more items to OneDrive or they can add them to OneDrive. And so I think that's great. So like if you've got a GitHub repository that's not sitting in My Documents and you want it in the root of C or something, your developers could do that. So anyway, it's hugely powerful and a wonderful platform.
Yes, indeed. I think that's the we've hit the conclusion for this video there, Adam. I think
we're almost there. I think we got one more. Let's double check on the sync our settings option.
Ah, yes.
So this is our enterprise state roaming.
Yes.
So this is what I guess we didn't show the before picture here, but what we would have seen before is that this would have been grayed out and would have been disabled, and it would have said your administrator has disabled this option. So now that we've enabled this allows our settings to sync across our platforms. So all of these types of things will follow us.
Yeah, and you'll see it right at the top of the screen. If you scroll right to the top for me, Adam, sync your settings to other devices using Adam at Intune.training. So this is basically explicitly saying it's already syncing it. You don't need to do anything to turn it on or off. Yep.
So I think that's it. I think we've definitely covered all the bits and pieces.
Yep.
So please get. There we go. That's what I was trying. We're doing it live.
We do.
So yeah, I mean, I think if you're not already looking at how you're going to secure your company data, these are some very quick and easy ways to implement some more document security around your company data and protecting your users, protecting your company, and they're very easy, very powerful, and you should do it. Do it live.
I agree with Adam. Like, there is so much power in using these technologies to make your life easier, where you can start turning around and going, look, that's a disposable device. Once we go to OneDrive, once we start syncing data with enterprise state roaming, we don't need to worry about the actual computer anymore. The physical device is just replaceable. What we can do is we can go and grab any device off the table. Here you go, Adam, your computer's died. Here, have a new one.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the important one. So I think with that, let's wrap it up, and I'm sure we'll do another one soon.
Yeah, probably, I don't know, next Tuesday?
Yeah, maybe we'll see you next Tuesday.
All right, sounds good.
All right.
Well,
Thanks,
see you later.